It was kind of based on the landscape itself. So it's almost as if I've come full circle to now actually be living in it.
Hi, and welcome to the Desert Lady Diaries podcast, a weekly conversation with women who found their home in the Mojave Desert. I'm Dawn Davis, and this is episode 73. If you'd like more information about the podcast, it's all at the website desertladydiaries.com, and I invite you to engage with the guests, with other listeners, or with me on social media on Facebook and Instagram at Desert Lady Diaries or on Twitter at Desert Lady Diary. Karin Skiba began exhibiting her work in Canada and moved to California in the late 70s. She began teaching at Riverside City College in 1990 and was the full-time art instructor at Norco from 1991 until 2011. With a strong resume, Karin has created art for over 44 years as an example of artistic persistence and passion. Now she has a studio in Joshua Tree and devotes the majority of her time to making art. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Thanks. What was your first experience with desert?
I moved to Pomona, California in 77 from the eastern part of Canada. I grew up in Detroit, but I had been living in Canada where it's extremely green. And when I came out here, I was totally freaked out by palm trees and the absence of what I considered real trees. So a couple of months after arriving here, I had the opportunity to go camping up in Red Rock by Randsburg, and I thought it was the most hideous thing I'd ever seen in my whole life. Shortly after that, I made a trip into Joshua Tree, and I sort of couldn't believe that anybody could live here. Could not believe it.
What was it about it that made you feel that way?
I had my own perception of what I thought was beautiful, and this wasn't beautiful. And but as years went by and I did more traveling and experienced more of a variety of landscapes, let's say, I came to understand that there can be more than just the Michigan beauty or the Canada beauty. There could be all kinds of beauty. It was quite a few years later that I came back to Joshua Tree and I thought, wow, I've got to be here. I've got to have something here. So.
Wow. What was that? Was it just a visit that you were coming out to see the park, or were you here to visit, or?
My life had changed quite a bit, and I was remarried, and this husband loves the desert, and so we decided to come out just to walk around the park. He decided he was going to show me how wonderful it was, and there was just this feeling that this was important, and this was an important place for me to be. In 2005, we got a small house in 29 Palms, and then eventually migrated into Joshua Tree in Yucca Valley.
When you moved here, where did you move from at that point?
Riverside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what was that process like? Did you know anybody here? Did you just come and get a house and said, we're moving?
Well, we had a weekend retreat, and we came to know a couple people, and then we sold that and got into Joshua Tree and came to know some more people and came to know some of the artists, which was real helpful. And I got another space that I now use as a studio. So I was coming back and forth and staying up here during the week and working in the studio. And then finally he retired a year and a half ago, and we got a home in Yucca Valley, and I still have my studio. So now we've been here full time a year and a half. So it took us a while.
Yeah.
But we did it.
And how has that been?
It's been great.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Were there any challenges or surprises to desert living versus where you were in Riverside?
I think because we took our time sort of getting used to it, I have to say that I don't like snakes, and so my encounters with rattlesnakes were not wonderful. I was scared to death.
So you did have some?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And then in the little house out in 29, it was so desolate, and there were scorpions. Those things freaked me out, so I wasn't thrilled, but I have big feet and I have big shoes, so I can step on them really.
Well, do you feel like you're in Yucca Valley now?
Yeah, so... I'm very grateful that we made the move, and I don't miss Riverside, and I miss some of the stuff about LA, but I don't miss the traffic or the congestion or anything like that.
Right.
This feels real good.
So you've been an artist for 44 years in some way, shape, or form, whether you're actually creating your own work or helping other people learn how to create theirs.
Right.
What was your inspiration when you decided to take a career in that direction?
I think I've always considered myself sort of an artist from the time I was a little kid, from drawing and all of that. when I went to school, to college the first year, I wanted to do fashion illustration, and I got myself from an all-girls Catholic college in Detroit to an art school and majored in fashion illustration. And then at one point switched into fine art. And I had moved to Canada and then came out here, and I finished my education at the Claremont colleges and got my grad degree in fine art there. So it sort of was this normal progression. I hadn't intended to be a fine artist, but that's sort of, where I landed. And my art still has a certain fashion slant to it sometimes with the female figure that I use a lot in the pieces. But it's just been something that I set my mind to and decided I was going forward with it.
And tell me about the artwork itself, your medium.
I work now with a lot of paper and painted paper and collage. I've done a lot of work on panel and cutout panel, and I'm kind of going back to that. I'm an object maker. Okay. So I like to make pictures. I use photography that I take myself and collage with that. I like mixed media. I like layering things. I layer wood, or I layer the painted paper with photographs. But I did have a foray into something else that I want to mention.
Sure.
And it sort of ties into the desert. When I first met my present husband, Robert, I had wanted to put some of my collages somehow on, like animate them or something and have sound with them. I wasn't sure how to do it. I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted, but I knew that he's a musician, and so he could help me. We started writing some spoken word and some music, and I have, I think, a kind of a nasally weird voice, and sometimes my Detroit accent sneaks in. And I would listen to myself. I wasn't real thrilled, but I worked on it. And he said to me, we need to have a performance. And I thought, you mean in front of people? And he said, yeah. And I can lecture, no problem. But right. I thought, well, we were writing a song. It's called Cactus Love. And it's kind of a rockabilly song. I was real surprised that this was working out this way. But we came up with 6 different songs.
Wow.
Some are all spoken. And he was playing the music, and he was frustrating me. And I was getting mad, so I sang what I wanted him to do. And he couldn't believe it. He said, you have a great voice. So I started singing with some of this stuff. And again, it was scary to sing in front of people because I can talk about art forever, But to sing, it's like, oh my God. So we did it, and we performed it. I shot video. We projected video on a big wall, and we were in a couple different galleries, some school galleries, in a theater. And then we had a little band that we played the stuff live. We had some of it recorded. And I also made a body of work to kind of go with it. And I used some of that in the photography of the video. And it took us 1.5 years to get it all done.
Wow.
That was really an exciting change for me to go into something like that, from just being an object maker to actually performing the work. And I don't consider myself a performance artist, but it was kind of a thrill to be able to capture people's attention with the music and with the video. And I could see why filmmakers do what they do, because you've got the audience there watching when you're shooting something like that.
Right.
They're paying attention. They don't care if you're singing or not. They're paying attention to what they're watching. I don't know. It was real education for me,
Yeah. How many performances did you do?
We did about 4 of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you have the CD that you brought me.
Yeah.
So, and it was called Scrubscapes.
Scrubscapes, yeah, instead of landscapes. And see, it was kind of a parody on the whole desert idea. And Robert had a job he had to do up in Adelanto, and we were driving, and I thought, oh my God, this is hideous land. This is scrubby. And so I got this idea, and some of the stuff is about Southern California and the smog, because Riverside's so smoggy, and the Hispanic influence. And we have a tango that we created that's really fun, and just all sorts of parts of it. But it was kind of based on the landscape itself. So it's almost as if I've come full circle to now actually be living in it.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because that's what I say about myself, being born and raised in New Jersey and living then in North Carolina, Cleveland, Florida. But everywhere I've ever lived, I've decorated the inside of my home as if I were living in the desert.
Oh, wow.
So when I came here for the very first time and I was just sucked right into it, I thought, wow, now it's not only in my house, but it's outside too, which is amazing. It's a beautiful landscape. So I think sometimes seeds are planted in us that we don't know, we don't necessarily know where we're going to land, but somebody else does.
Yeah, I agree. It's very comfortable. The vibe is great. I don't feel like I've even started to explore what I can explore as far as what's around here. I've been concentrating on this new body of work, and I've been in the studio so much that I'm kind of like a hermit in there. So once that gets exhibited and done and over with, then I feel like I'm going to have a little bit more freedom to wander around.
And that is taking place February 9th. It opens at the Joshua Tree Art Gallery in Joshua Tree, and it's called Wanderland. Which I love, because it's like you're wandering in the desert.
That's right.
So talk to me about some of the pieces that you have in the show.
There has been a predominance of trees in my work from the last few years, really, even more than that. So I brought them forward. I had done a series of work based on Detroit, where I'm from. I'd gone back and taken a lot of photographs of the architecture. And when I did the collages with the pictures and started painting, I found myself doing trees with the branches going up as if into the future, and then the roots coming down like they're securing you to the past. So the tree keeps appearing. When I started to work on this body of work, the trees just kept on. They keep coming. And I work in a real sort of instinctual way, so I don't always plan what I'm going to do. I may have ideas as I'm working, but I sit down and start to work. And so there are a lot of trees. They're powerful to me. They are anchoring. The last couple of years, I've lost my mom and my brother, so I've been working through that grief as well as everything else and getting used to living here and stuff. So the trees seemed like giving me some sort of stability, and I've played on that. And then I found I was drawing faces again, and I do portraits all the time of these people. I don't know who they are, but they're always women. And I started to actually cut apart some of the faces and reposition them. And I loved how that fracturing and then reassembling was working. So there's portraits and trees in this group of work. And wandering is because I'm wandering in my own studio, I guess.
Right.
In Wonderland, I don't know.
Right. So when you were teaching all that time, was there a lot of time for you to do your own work, or were you mostly focused on the teaching and the curriculum and shepherding new artists to come along?
I got pretty involved in academia. And that was hard. I had been working part-time for several years, for quite a few years, and when I took on the full-time responsibility, I felt really swallowed up. But I've always had a studio. I've always done work. I just haven't been able to get out there and schmooze as much, or I've always shown, but more minimally than I had in the past. And then I got real involved in the politics of the district and became the president of the faculty union for several years.
That'll suck you up, right?
Yes, that was real hard. But I enjoyed it, and I learned a lot. You know, I'm not afraid of anything anymore.
Well, it's sometimes when you really believe in something, it's not hard to have to fight for it.
Yeah,
so.
it was good. And, but now I'm retired. I still teach online. I teach art appreciation online. But I have more time to myself and to develop what I want to do. So it's kind of exciting.
Right. And to be able to leave your house in Yucca Valley and actually drive to a studio where you're not like, oh, let me throw in that load of laundry, or let me, get something out for supper tonight.
That's
or whatever. You can just stay completely focused on your work. So do you have quote unquote office hours, or?
I usually get down there in mid-morning and stay until late afternoon. So I'm there all day, as much as I can be. I love it. I just really love it.
Yeah. Were there any students that you taught along the way that have come into their own as artists that you know of, and how does that feel for you?
I've had several students who've done really, really well as illustrators and as independent artists, and it makes me very proud. And I think that that's all part of being an artist. You know, when you give yourself into academia, you have to sacrifice a certain amount of your own time and energy, but it gets channeled into this next generation. So it's worthwhile. It's real worthwhile. At first I wasn't so sure, but now that I look back, I think that it was a really good thing to do.
When you were growing up in Detroit, would you have ever thought that you would be living in the desert?
No, I didn't know what it was. We didn't know what that was.
Sure. And I talk to people that have grown up here, and they leave here, and most of them want to come back because they really love it. I always ask, did you ever think of leaving? And they were like, oh, yeah, all the time. I couldn't wait to get out of here. And then they go and they say, you know what? I really like it here. So you said you had some encounters with some rattlesnakes. How did that all go down?
Well, I didn't get too physical with them, that's for sure. But the dogs found them. And,
Oh, gosh.
You know, I saw this thing curled up, and I thought, oh, what's the Cinnabon doing underneath? It's a big one.
If only.
I'm just real leery of them, and I have a friend that actually rescues snakes and does things like that.
Oh, okay.
She's up here, and I think she's the bravest little thing in the whole world.
Oh, is that Danielle?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. She was the second to last interview in December. Yeah, she was on. I had her here where I live. I looked out the window one day, and the property manager has her cane on a snake. I don't remember. It was a non-venomous. Uh-huh. They were calling animal control. And they were like, well, when can you get here? A couple of hours. I go, well, wait a minute. Right.
Yeah.
So she immediately showed up, and all 5'2" of her jumps out of her truck and 100 pounds, and she runs over there and works her magic with her hands and just snaps them right up. It was amazing to watch.
I haven't witnessed it. I'd like to.
Oh, yeah. It was really something to see. It was really. And then she said she has cages built in her place so that if this particular guy was a little undernourished and dehydrated, she said. So she took him home and fattened him up a little bit and then sent him on his way.
Here, have a little mousy.
Right, exactly.
Yikes.
Have there been any other things that you've had to, or you feel you've had to adapt to here, moving to the desert?
Just the heat, know. But I'm not into this extreme heat. But as far as animals and things like that, it's fine. I feed birds and bunnies every morning, and I've had bobcat come and drink water in the summertime,
cool.
Right outside my office window
up
in Yucca. And I have corrals in the back of my property, and I've been thinking about getting horses again because I've had them before. So we'll see if that all matures or not. I think because we were coming up to 29, and we were basically in Wonder Valley, so it's, like I say, it was pretty desolate out there. So, but I got used to it.
It is beautiful. And the silence. When I drive out every once in a while, I'll go out and have breakfast at the Palms, and I pull up and I get out of the car and I just stand there for a couple of minutes and take in that silence. It's really amazing. So you've been to the Palms?
Yes.
Yeah?
Once, yeah.
Once?
I hope it's changed since then. It was kind of spooky, but...
Oh, I think you'd like it now. Yeah, it's a different crowd, probably.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and especially Sunday morning brunch. Go about 9 o'clock. And
okay.
Yeah, there are a number of people that I think... You might even know some people that are out there.
I do.
Yeah, Kathy Allen comes out every once in a while.
Well.
Yeah. So go out there and get your Bloody Mary for Sunday breakfast. Do you think being here, it's enough to keep you here? Or do you think there will be other moves for you?
I can't see that happening anytime soon. I would consider having a residence somewhere else for in the summertime, or someplace else to go to for a while, like particularly in the summer.
Right.
But I'm not eager to do that. We're just still getting used to being here full time, and we have to go down the hill for a lot of stuff, for doctors and dentists and stuff like that. But otherwise, it's fine. It's fine. The silence is great. The fact that it's not real busy with traffic and stuff is wonderful. And gives us the opportunity to do our thing that we're doing.
Right. That's the biggest thing, I think, for people who do come out, that they find that freedom of time and space, and economically it seems to work in that regard. Do you have your artwork in other places around town? Because you're doing this exhibition or show at Joshua Tree Art Gallery, but there are a number of other places in town that I guess take in and consign work. So do you have work in some of those places?
I had work in Bunny Gunner Jr. when it was there at Taylor Junction. I also do jewelry, and I've had some jewelry at Gallery 62. But otherwise, no, this is sort of my first attempt. I've shown at JTAG before in group shows, but I decided to do a solo show. I'll see what happens from there. I wouldn't mind trying to find a gallery in Palm Springs area. Now that I have this new body of work, I can take that into Los Angeles if I want, or something like that.
Sure.
So
yeah. Even 29 Palms, we have so many places here that will take the work in, even like Pie for the People has different artists every month, or the 29 Palms Inn has different artists on the wall every month. And I think that's really awesome for the artists that are here to have those opportunities over and above having to go through the process of finding a gallery that will take their work in. What was that process like for you with Joshua Tree Art Gallery, JTAG?
It was fine. They came out and checked out my work and decided that it was good to go. But I've done restaurants and things before, and I don't mean to sound like a snob, but I won't do it again. Because I've had food splattered on pieces and things like that. So I want to stay with the gallery venue, and if it doesn't work, then I'll try stuff on the internet, I think.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah. Or even a lot of people are using Instagram.
Yes, I use that too.
Yeah, to put their stuff out. It's a really, and then you have a global audience, really, which is one of the great things about the World Wide Web.
And JTAG's helping me with Artsy, which is another site for selling art. Okay. So I have stuff there too.
Wonderful. So and then your website, we've got KarinSkiba.com, which I'll put in the show notes at the end. And I was wondering if you have any of the music from your Scrubscapes on MP3.
I just have the CD.
Just have the CD. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk to Rob, your husband.
Robert.
Yeah. I think that would be really cool if we could get one of the songs to play at the end of the episode. That would be fun. So stay tuned. We might actually have it at the end of the episode for you.
I think if you go to my website, I have a new website, and I believe that you can access it there.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Okay. So when you're not in your studio making art, and you're at home, and you're not working in your office in Yucca Valley, what kind of things are you doing in your spare time?
Baking.
Ooh. I didn't see anything come in the door.
I should have, huh? I should have brought something. I like to bake. I have a little room in my house that's full of beads and stuff. I've just got a little loom. I'm going to start doing some bead weaving, and
What is bead weaving?
Well, it's traditionally just long strips of woven beads. I'm going to try making some big pieces and use paper and some silk sari pieces that I have. From Indian saris. Okay. I'm making a purse that's all embroidered, and I do jewelry, and I sell jewelry. So I'm sort of cut back on it right now, but I've done it since 1982. Wow. So I have all these supplies in there, so I fool around in there.
Just whatever inspiration hits.
I have to always have something going on, it seems like. Make something.
Are you much of a reader?
Yeah, I read.
Oh, what are you reading now?
I'm reading Ann Patchett's book about a happy marriage. It's a series of short stories. But one of the books that actually was kind of influential in doing this Wonderland series was a book by Richard Powers called Overstory. And it's a series of stories about trees and how they were important in certain people's lives. And you first read the book, you think that they're all sort of disconnected, but then toward the middle of the book they come together and try to save trees, and everybody kind of meets. I don't know. I'm not describing it very well, but it's so beautifully written. He's such a great writer. And he talked about all different kind of trees that got me really doing some research. I was particularly taken with the idea of aspens because their roots are all underground and they're all connected together. So I read that and I felt compelled to draw aspens. So I did a big piece of paper that's about 8 feet tall, and I drew these aspens and painted them. And then I thought, okay, now what am I going to do with this? I don't know. So it was hanging in my studio. And then I was reading about redwoods, and it was in the dead heat of August this last year. And Robert and I went up to Eureka and went to the redwood forest. And so I came back and started drawing redwoods. So I put that all together. So there will be a piece at Joshua Tree, this enormous paper piece with these aspens and the redwoods kind of integrated together. And I had drawn a figure sitting in a chair, and I wasn't sure what to do with her either. And I cut her out and put her in the middle of those trees, so she kind of looks like Mother Earth. So it's sort of funny.
That's cool. It sounds great.
But that book really got me going and hit home with me.
Wow.
It's a wonderful book.
Well, I'll make sure to put that in the show notes so people can go and check it out.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds fun. We've reached the point in the podcast where I'm doing a new segment called Diary Unlocked. And I'm asking the guests to pick 3 numbers between 1 and 50. And when you answer these questions, they will be available exclusively to our Patreon subscribers. So your numbers are, pick 3 numbers.
From 1 to which one?
1 to 50.
15, 49, and 10.
15, 49, and 10. So I'm going to read the questions so people know what you're answering, and then we're going to go ahead and answer those. How many times a day do you type something into Google? Finish this sentence. I've always wanted, and what or who inspires you? So again, Karen's going to answer these questions on the exclusive content that'll be available on Patreon. And thank you very much for coming today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Karen talked about her experience of dabbling outside of her medium from object art to performance art. Are you doing something similar now? I'd love to hear about your experience. Share it with me on the Facebook page, or if it's more comfortable, send me an email at desertladydiaries@gmail.com and let me know if I can share it on next week's episode. And keep listening. Karen's husband Robert sent an MP3 of Cactus Love from their show Scrubscapes. Thanks, Robert. And if you'd like to hear the answers to the questions Karen chose for Diary Unlocked, the episode is available over at the Desert Lady Diaries private podcast on Patreon. Diary Unlocked is available exclusively to Patreon supporters of Desert Lady Diaries. Check it out at Patreon, patreon.com/Desert Lady Diaries, or check out the details on the support page of desertladydiaries.com. It's shout-out time, and this week I'm shouting out to Annalisa and Valerie. I appreciate you both signing up for the weekly newsletter. If you'd like to sign up for the weekly newsletter, head over to desertladydiaries.com and click on Weekly Newsletter. Next week, I'm talking to former Queen of Landers, Kit Brooks. And now, here's Karen and Robert's song, Cactus Love. Thanks so much for listening.
On the freeway, gray sky, always sunny, mountains disappearing behind a mask of smog. Thinking of you, the cactus landscape, how it can trap me, make me bleed like a strike on a thorn, this cactus of love. Cactus love, kiss me, hold me, hurt and sting like a barb caught in my skin. Cactus love, kiss me, hold me, cactus love. Cactus confusion out the car window. Landscape, scrubscape, so bare, so bare. Cactus love has me captured. This desert has a hold on my heart. This desert has a hold on my heart. Cactus love, kiss me, hold me, hurt and sting like a barb caught in my skin. Cactus love, kiss me, hold me, cactus love. Cactus love, kiss me, hold me, hurt and sting like a barb caught in my skin. blind mask of smog. Thinking of you, the cactus landscape, how it can trap me, make me bleed like a bright